Dynasty Decisions, episode number 93. On this channel, we break down your dynasty teams. We talk about your trades. We talk about whether you're rebuilding, whether you're contending, some of the orphans you guys take over, and we talk dynasty strategy over here. If you want your team covered, of course, link down below in the description to submit your team. Our Mother Flocker members and Flocker members over on Flock Fantasy skip the line. Of course, if they use our promo code FSE only, they skip the line. But you can also submit your team for free, and we'll add you up to the queue. If you've previously submitted a team and we never got to it, you can indicate when you submitted it, and we will have you skip back towards your place in the queue. So, Danny, how you doing? What's up?
Doing well. Just getting ready to roll up the sleeves and record the 93rd episode, like you said, of Dynasty Decisions. And we're 7 away from 100. We're 7 away from triple digits. And with your guys' help, we'll get there soon enough. But with that being said, let's waste no more time. Let's get right into the first team.
All right, so we are breaking down the first team here from Astrout. You guys can see the team on the screen there. It's a 12-team PPR 0.5 tight end premium league with a tight end premium there. Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, and Desmond Ridder as the top quarterbacks. Miles Sanders, Madison, Kendre Miller, B-Rob, Gibson, Rashad Penny, Damian Harris, Jamal Williams. Just a glorified zero RB right there. CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Jonathan Mingo, and others at wide receiver. And then at tight end, he has TJ Hawkinson as his main guy. Doesn't look like he has his first next year, but he does have an extra second. So this is an orphan team. Apparently, Astrout took over this team. He adopted it in June, and he's yet to make any moves on it. Pretty standard league other than the way that the pick order is determined. He said it's determined by record, not max points for, which is obviously stupid. And if he was the commissioner of this league, he probably wouldn't want to do that. But he did say he can essentially hide rookies and second-year players to tank his record on his taxi squad, which is personally why I hate this rule and why I think max points for should always be the standard, because I've been screwed out of 2 101s in a row in one league because of this, because guys were taxing their best players like, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave last year. And I got screwed out of 2 101s in a couple leagues. But anyways, team build is pretty strong. Built how he would normally build it for the most part. Obvious issue here is he doesn't have his own first. I would say another big issue of this team is that you have a bunch of like productive running backs, none of which are like extremely valuable, but they do have value. So my first order of business, especially with the season approaching, would be to offload Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison, Kendre. Kendre Miller's a little young, so maybe you could hold on to him. But Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Rashad Penny, Damian Harris, Jamal Williams, all these guys have value on the market, and I would be picking up as many mid-round picks as I could.
Yeah, no, 100%. But he also says here at the end of it is that I would like to ideally trade for my own first and hide guys like Olave, Ridder, Mingo, etc. on my taxi squad to finish as a top 5 pick. The problem, though, is the guy who owns his pick is being stingy and isn't really competing. So he has really no incentive to sell the pick if he doesn't see an offer that is maybe 110, 120% of the value. So basically his question is, if I choose to compete, like, is that going to be bad? Or like, should I push the tank? Or like, what should I do here? And you are in a peculiar spot because I will say, like, you do have top end talent with Kyler Murray, with Tua Tagovailoa, with CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, guys like TJ Hawkinson, who should all be really valuable players. But in a start 10 man, like, I'm looking wide receiver 4, Jonathan Mingo, running back 2, Alexander Madison. Like, it's a little bit of a sketch spot to be in. So although you'll have to overpay for your first, in my opinion, I don't really see this team as being a top 3 overall type of competitive team in your league. So even if you have to bite the bullet, even if it says, hey, listen, I want my first back, I'm willing to give you TJ Hawkinson for my first and maybe a third or something like that. Or maybe you have to add a third or something like that. I don't know. If TJ Hawkinson gets you your first pack, you do that. Or for example, maybe you get lucky and he takes Jonathan Mingo, Alexander Madison, both seconds, Rashad Penny, whatever the case may be, and you just compile a bunch of, numbers assets towards a really valuable one that could be your pick. That could be another option, but regardless, even if he's playing stingy, man, like, I am not going to feel comfortable with this squad right now if I do not have my 24 first round pick.
Yeah, the difficult part is he said the guy's not competing, right? So he's going to want to hold that first. And if he trades it, he's going to probably want a rebuilding asset, somebody that's a good foundational piece for his team. The one thing I might consider doing, and I'm not usually in favor of selling young wide receivers when you're rebuilding, but maybe T. Higgins
Yep.
is a guy that you can use to get your first back. Maybe it's T. Higgins and Kendre Miller that gets you your first, and maybe a downgrade at wide receiver maybe gives you like an Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, or somebody like that on top of it. You kind of have to bite the bullet and go after your own first at that point. But I would imagine, given this team's team construction, he's not going to want Madison or Sanders or any of these guys that you need to offload. So you're probably going to have to give up, like Danny said, TJ Hawkinson, maybe T. Higgins, maybe Tua, and gets you a quarterback downgrade. Maybe you can give him Tua for the first, and like, I don't know, somebody on his roster like Brock Purdy or Will Levis or something like that. So for me, you're in a bit of a precarious situation. The first order of business, get your own first back, try and collect as many picks as you can, especially in season. We get a couple big games from Miles Sanders. He's off my roster. We get a couple big games from Alexander Madison. Even, with those guys, I don't believe in them a ton to begin with. So I would probably sell them in training camp and preseason games when they're getting big time usage. And we're not seeing any regular season like fantasy production yet, because I have a feeling that those guys are, prototype dead zone running backs. They're just volume projections. I would probably try and sell them for what you can get for them right now. Even if it's like a second and a third, I would probably take that. But ideally, you can package maybe Sanders, Penny, and somebody on your bench, like, I don't know, Paris Campbell or something like that, and get somebody's 25 first or 24 first or something.
26 first. Fuck. Like, if you can get a first round pick for players that aren't really advancing you to where you want to get to, then absolutely, I believe in that. I do think, like, out of pure building blocks, like, realistically, Kyler Murray's not leaving my team. Tua Tagovailoa, like, depending on the offer, if you want to like get to the younger quarterback, I think that's fine. But realistically, I'm cool with his value there. CeeDee Lamb, like, even if somebody wants to say, hey, listen, I love Chris Olave and I'm willing to completely overpay, give you 2 1s, and I want Chris Olave in a third or something like that, and both ones project to be like mid. Yeah, no, he's off my team. I'm selling him. I realistically would try to strip this down to the point where you're based on complete liquidity and you're just rebuilding this thing to try to compete in 2024, 2025. Because realistically, right now, in a start 10, I don't really think you have the pure ammunition to truly compete.
Yeah, and maybe you can trade TJ Hawkinson and a second for Sam Laporta and a first, or Michael Mayer and a first, or something like that. Get yourself a little younger at that position. Hawkinson's value is a little inflated right now. So you got some moves. You definitely have to make some moves. He said he's taken over this orphan and haven't made some moves yet. You definitely need to coming up here very soon. And that running back core, I mean, aside from Kendre Miller, who's a young guy, and even him, like, the backfield, they don't sign if they don't sign Kareem Hunt here because he's visiting the Colts today, it's possible that you could offload him as well. So I'd be stripping this running back core, getting 2s, getting 3s, packaging them together to try and get a 25-1 if you can possibly do it. And same goes for those wide receivers. If the overpays are on the table, Kyler Murray and Tua are really the only guys that I'm totally interested in rostering. And maybe Tua's value is high in somebody's mind, and you can get down to CJ Stroud and a pick or something for Tua Tagovailoa. That would make some sense. But a lot of moves left to do. I think we can move on to the next team here, which is from Wenzel, also a Mother Flocker tier member, using code FSE. 12-team PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown with a full point tight end premium super flex league here. Mahomes, Goff, Will Levis is the main quarterbacks. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, James Conner, and Chase Brown as the running backs. Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, Jonathan Mingo, and Cedric Tillman at wide receiver. And then Andrews, Waller, and Mayer at tight end. So very strong at the tight end position in a full point per 2 point per reception, basically tight end premium format. Those guys are going to have a lot of value. Does not have his first or his second in 2024, and does not have his first in 2025. So this is your prototype contender, right? You got, Mahomes and Goff in the QB1, QB2 slot. Henry and McCaffrey going to lock down your running back slots. Higgins, Diggs, Lockett, Pittman, all those guys going to fill out your wide receiver spots through the flex, most likely. Does have a pretty large starting roster with 3 wide receivers and 3 flexes. So definitely going to need to have some depth on this team, but you do have some depth at tight end. You can mix Darren Waller into your flex as well, because it's a 2 point per reception tight end premium. So what are your thoughts on this team? Do you think there's much to be done with this thing? I mean, this is the prototype, just try and win kind of team.
Yeah, just go out there and win. Realistically, I would say maybe you want to add a piece to help you, contend further, but you don't really have liquidity right now, and you have a roster that can easily win and compete for the championship. Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff. Maybe the one transition I would say is if Will Levis can get you another, like, quote unquote, more win now type of quarterback for you. That's probably what I would look into, depending on what your league valuation is of him. Maybe, do you think in this type of league that Will Levis plus maybe, Jonathan Mingo can get you Kirk Cousins plus a more win now type of wide receiver?
Yeah, I would definitely try and make a move like that if it's available. The only difficult thing is that Will Levis is like keep trade cut values like quarterback 30 right now.
Mhm.
Like he has no value on the market. So I think you're probably better off holding him at least until we get some buzz that maybe he's looking great in practice or something like that, or maybe he starts a couple games during the season and he looks good. He's probably a guy that you most likely have to hold just because he's not. Ever since the DeAndre Hopkins signing, people have been down on Will Levis, thinking that Tannehill is going to probably start the whole season. So he's probably a guy that you need to hold. He also says like all
For
these
sure.
guys like listen to content. So this is more of like a sharper league. They listen to, Dynasty Trades in 5, the guys over there. So a lot of them went like wide receiver early. Nobody's kind of made moves to compete other than him. Somewhat sharp league, all fairly even trades. He's like not going to be woodshedding anybody in this league. So he said at the moment, only one other team in the league looks like a contender. So it looks like it's just him and this other guy. 2 league mates punted their 2023 team for 2024. And he said this is a 3-year upfront buy-in. He said he figures he better win the league in that first, second, third, and worry about anything after that later. I would say definitely the way you've
Yep.
structured your team, it's definitely going to need to be your approach. He says he has all of his 2026 picks, and because he paid 3 years up front, it looks like he can move them. So if you need to make a buying power move during the season, if there's a team that's maybe caught in limbo that has Josh Jacobs on their roster, has Travis Etienne on their roster, has whatever win now type of receiver on their roster, then definitely I'm open to moving my 2026 first as well. Knowing that your team is in a competitive window and it's going to be challenging to compete probably after this year or after 2 years from now, given the fact that your running backs are aging rapidly. And I wouldn't also be opposed to the idea of maybe tearing down to a win now running back that has a little bit more of a shelf life. So if you can get Ramondre Stevenson plus for Christian McCaffrey, or you can get Josh Jacobs plus for Christian McCaffrey or something like that, it's probably possible in most leagues. Derrick Henry's kind of like what he is on the market right now. Not a lot of people are going to give you a young running back for Derrick Henry, but that'd be my first thought, just to try and increase your winning window a little bit more, but still stay relatively competitive. But at the same time, I'm sure Danny's going to say like, just give me the
Yeah.
wins over replacement that Christian McCaffrey can give you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you've structured your team realistically where it's not going to have much longevity in its own right. And moving one piece down for a piece that may be able to give you a year or two extra of RB10, RB8 type of value versus McCaffrey, who, again, I'm down on him in redraft. He's my running back 2, which is like down. But he's got every bit of the chance outside of maybe Bijan Robinson to finish as the running back 1 overall in fantasy. And then from the rest of the team, like, yeah, Stephon Diggs going to be a big value over a replacement player. Mark Andrews, definitely a big value over a replacement player given the settings. Patrick Mahomes, what he's going to be able to represent. So realistically, you got a bunch of hammers on this team. To start 11th league, I'm a little bit worried because they're all older players that are more likely to break down.
Yeah, and I mean, given that these guys follow content and all that stuff, it's probably unlikely they're going to want to trade for guys like Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry anyway. He has a bunch of trades listed here. I don't know if we're going to have time to go through all of them, but it looks like he sold 2 ones to get Mark Andrews. The one thing I will say is you took Will Levis at the 109. I probably wouldn't have done that. I probably would have sold the 109 for a win now quarterback like Kirk Cousins, or sold it for maybe a lower end quarterback like, because you already have Mahomes and Goff. Maybe you could have sold it for like Jimmy Garoppolo and Keenan Allen or something like that and gotten 2 pieces to help your team win now. So that's one thing I kind of disagree with that you did in your rookie draft. As much as I think Will Levis is probably worth about the 109, 110, 111 area, I think I probably would have sold that pick if I was in your spot.
Yeah, no, I definitely would have as well. I kind of mentioned, some of the alternative quarterbacks in that range, but yeah, for me personally, Will Levis doesn't really help advance you. That's kind of why I said if you can try to make that transition now, because I like Will Levis. Like, he's higher in my rankings than the market has him right now. But realistically, given the status of your team and given how barren the liquidity you have at your hands, a guy like Will Levis is going to be as much buying power as you pretty much are going to have, because realistically, he's going to be worth more than any single other pick you have. And the other assets you have on your team are going to help advance you towards winning a championship, barring maybe Mingo, Tillman, and Chase Brown, and maybe Michael Mayer. Maybe Michael Mayer and Will Levis, you can move for a quarterback plus maybe not a tight end, but another wide receiver piece or another running back piece if you're worried about your depth there. You have a lot of options with this, but they're barren. Like, they are like strict Michael Mayer, Will Levis, Jonathan Mingo, Cedric Tillman in those picks that you have, because everything else is going to be worth more to you from a production standpoint than they're going to be able to fetch on the market.
Yeah, I think some of the trades that he made here too, I'm not like totally on board with some of them. Like J.K. Dobbins
Agreed.
in the 104, you sold for Keenan Allen 109, 110, and 211. I mean,
No.
we talked ad nauseum during the rookie draft season that like we did not like the 109, 110 area of the rookie draft. So selling a pick like 104 that could have netted you, like you could have instead of making that trade and ending up with Will Levis and like he trades down, he ends up getting like Michael Mayer at the 112 and he picks up some like middling picks. Personally, I think you took it too far. I would have just held J.K. Dobbins, taken Jahmyr Gibbs at 104, and you could have had your running back core be J.K. Dobbins and Jahmyr Gibbs. He then later sold Travis Etienne and Rachaad White to go get Diggs and McCaffrey. You could have had a running back core of J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Rachaad White, which would have been a younger running back core that would have extended your winning window a number of years. And I probably would have stayed pat with that. As much as CMC and Diggs would have been great additions to your team, I think I would have preferred that, to be honest. You would have had a multi-year competitive window, and you still have the flexibility at that point, too, to make moves and go out and get wide receiver talent. I think you overpaid for some talent in Keenan Allen, and then you undersold on Keenan Allen later on when you sold them for Michael Pittman, who doesn't really fit your winning window. You kind of were like, okay, I'm going all in. Well, actually, let me get a little bit younger here. So for me, if you were going to commit to the Keenan Allen kind of factor that you ended up doing there, I probably would have stuck to it.
Yeah, honest to God, if I'm looking at it, like I don't mind the first two trades because Mark Anderson in this format is a legitimate cheat code, so I don't mind paying that type of value for him.
Yeah, Lockett trade was good too.
Lockett trade was good too. It's really once you get to 5-6 range, man, because you look at Dobbins and Jahmyr Gibbs, they are the two most valuable players in that deal by far. Like for me personally, like Dobbins, like maybe someone's like, oh, well, Keenan Allen, he's a 31-year-old wide receiver coming off of missing multiple games. J.K. Dobbins is a 24-year-old running back that could potentially be a running back 2 or higher on a Baltimore Ravens offense. And if you're looking at redraft ADP right now, Keenan Allen's only going like one round ahead of him, and he's 31 years old. So for there,
that's 109. I mean, you took Levis there, and you probably passed on Zay Flowers as well, who I actually have ranked at 109. So not a huge fan of that trade. I think he started to unravel. I think the trade after it was fine, trading down from 110 to 112, picking up a pick upgrade in the second round and a third round pick. The trade for Rachaad White, I don't think was terrible value. I think if you like Rachaad White, that's fine. But I definitely, I would not have done the ETN Rachaad White in the first for Stephon Diggs and Christian McCaffrey. I think personally, you would have had a better time holding Travis Etienne instead of buying Christian McCaffrey and then taking Rachaad White in the first and buying Stephon Diggs or buying a similarly ranked wide receiver is probably what I would have done, because at least ETN gives you the possibility for multi-year production. As much as McCaffrey is going to be better this year, I think I like the longevity factor because with this team, like the players are older, but other than McCaffrey, Henry, and Connor, realistically, everybody should have 2 to 3 more years of high level production left. So I think I would have preferred to stick with the running back core that you had with Dobbins, with ETN, with potentially Jahmyr Gibbs and all those guys. So we're spending a while on this team. I'll let you wrap it up and then we'll move on to the next one. But I'm not a huge fan of some of the trades you made here.
I'll just say one thing. I'm more of a fan of the ETN White trade, assuming like you're assuming that pick's going to be late, because Stephon Diggs and Christian McCaffrey from a value over replacement standpoint are going to give you a lot of point production. And then obviously, you mentioned not a lot of people are making moves. The only real deal is a deal that I have a big time like ill will with. I don't even know if that's the proper word, but it's going to be the Dobbins and the 104 deal. I don't want to harp on it for too much longer, but I just feel like that 104 asset could have netted you everything you needed. Could have netted you the proper adequate depth. You could have.
That's why you made this trade, obviously, right? Like this is a start 11 league. It looks like he was worried about his depth. That's why he traded for Keenan Allen and all those picks. I just think you traded for bad depth, not good depth.
Yeah, agreed. Because I mean, realistically, Keenan Allen plus those picks isn't getting Jahmyr Gibbs off my team. I'll tell you that right now. If I had Jahmyr Gibbs, Keenan Allen 109, 110, 211 is not getting Jahmyr Gibbs off my team, and you also gave up J.K. Dobbins.
And that's also if Gibbs went before 104, you might have had Richardson or Bryce there at 104 too. As well. So definitely not great there. But I mean, you definitely still have some work to do. You can go out and win your championship, and it'll make it all worthwhile, obviously, which is the silver lining with this team. But I will say you're probably going to have to tear it down next year, because Derrick Henry might retire or might not be very good anymore. Christian McCaffrey might not be very good anymore. James Conner, probably useless for fantasy. And then your running back core is completely barren, which is why I would have preferred having Dobbins, Gibbs, and ETN and all these guys to keep you a little bit younger, a little longer. So let's move on to the next team here, which is from Aaron. 12-team PPR league, 6 point per passing touchdown, 1 quarterback league, so non-superflex. He has 2 Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray is his top 2 quarterbacks. Kenneth Walker, Jahmyr Gibbs, and others at running back, including Kendre Miller down there at the bottom. Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman, JSN, Jordan Addison, Traylon Burks, Hollywood Brown, Zay Flowers at wide receiver, Josh Downs at the bottom there too. Pat Freiermuth is his main tight end. And then it looks like he has 2 1s and 2 2s and 2 3s in 2024. So a start 8 league, 1 quarterback. So pretty shallow league format. Has some solid assets. He's lacking a couple star pieces, but I really do like the wide receiver core, the youth and the upside that you have there. Kenneth Walker is somebody that's tough to say, just, sell him for picks or whatever, because some people aren't buying him right now. I would say I would probably hold him until we see kind of what the workload between him and Charbonnet looks like. But overall, like a pretty solid team there.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is in a start 8 league, I would probably attempt to try to consolidate it down a little bit. So hypothetically, and I'm assuming that's going to be one of your questions, because you've built out a extremely talented, extremely deep nucleus, which I really, really like. And you do have, like we kind of said, some star power pieces there. Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyler Murray in particular, Jalen Waddle are guys that really stick out like sore thumbs.
Plus
the one thing I will... Plus, of course, the picks, the 2 firsts, the 2 seconds, the 2 thirds, and all of your picks in 2025. The one thing, though, like I said, is if you can potentially consolidate this down, you don't need as much depth in the start 8. Consolidate it down, go out and try to see what Garrett Wilson, what Chris Olave, CeeDee Lamb, maybe it costs you. Would you pay, let me think, JSN plus Traylon Burks to go out and get Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, I would consider doing something like that. The guys, wide receivers that actually, and total assets that stand out to me as guys that I would use to try and consolidate is Kenneth Walker, Michael Pittman, and Traylon Burks. Those would be the guys that I would potentially use to try and consolidate. Maybe Kenneth Walker, Michael Pittman in a second gets you close to an elite, Breece Hall type, or maybe it gets you to close to Garrett Wilson, or maybe it gets you close to Chris Olave or somebody like that, or Drake London, potentially. So yeah, I definitely agree with Danny there. I think I would probably try and consolidate some assets because you built out a lot of good depth. But I mean, worst case scenario, you can maybe see what Kenneth Walker is. Maybe you can sell him for more midseason, or maybe you can just hold him and then add some more running back talent in next year's class. And you should be ready to compete with this team. I would imagine all these guys are going to be kind of aligned in their primes when you need them to. JSN and Addison are rookies this year. Brooks is a second-year player. Waddle's a third-year player. Michael Pittman is a rookie quarterback. They're probably going to be better projections next year. So you should actually be in a house money window this time next year, especially Freiermuth too, as a young tight end, and Kyler Murray's coming off an ACL tear. So this is a perfect punt year for you. Tank your own pick a little bit and get yourself some elite assets next year. You said the bulk of his trades finally bore their fruit in this draft. It looks like he probably, drafted JSN and Jordan Addison, all these guys that he got this year. He said feels like next year will be the start of his contending window, but he also feels he's very rookie heavy. Who should I target for trades? / try to trade away to build up for my next season run. So, I mean, you're intending to not compete this year. So anybody that, gets injured during the season, or, whatever the case is, they're kind of struggling. Drake London, a guy comes to mind. If the quarterback play isn't very good this year, Kyle Pitts, obviously his teammate, would make some sense as well. Anybody that's a young player that is going to ascend, that is going to have lower value now, basically, or next mid-season than they have in next year's season is definitely going to make some sense. The other guy that I'm curious about too is Javonte Williams, a guy that when I updated our trade value chart today, I moved up a shit ton because he's clearing a bunch of checkpoints. You might be able to get like Javonte Williams plus for Kenneth Walker, and then flip Javonte Williams maybe mid-season or end of the season or after the season, or just hold him for your contending window as well.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that move at all. The other thing I would say as well is I think Drake London's a perfect name. Maybe Zay Flowers plus a piece is able to get you in terms of his range. So, of course, it fully depends on what's going on and what your league sentiment is around him. But Drake London, like, if it's cost
Zay Flowers
me...
and Kenneth Walker might get you to Drake London.
That's what I was exactly thinking, and that is exactly what the trade I was going to throw around is if you can package Zay Flowers and Kenneth Walker and get up to a guy like Drake London. I'm doing it yesterday, and maybe in your league, like, people are sour on Drake London, you can get a little piece on top. Like, maybe you can get even a second as a nice sweetener on top of that. Zay Flowers with Kenneth Walker for Drake London plus a second. In the majority of competitive sharp leagues like me and you are in, like, the Drake London owner is just going to laugh at you. But in a lot of more public leagues, people are worried about Drake London. They're hearing reports about how low the Falcons passing volume was last year and how Kyle Pitts is coming back. There's so many mouths to feed. Desmond Ritter's not going to be able to do it. There's a lot of false narratives being built around. If you check Twitter, you check YouTube, you check podcasts, Because guess what? People are going to say some outlandish stuff right now because we are in August. They want clicks, so they're going to say whatever's going to push a narrative. So if you can capitalize on that and it causes genuine worry about people in your leagues, go and get your free Drake London.
Yeah, when I was updating the trade value chart, Drake London is still, he was the first time I did it, and he's still the biggest difference between where we have him valued and where Keep Trade Cut has him valued. They have him valued as like a mid to late first round asset. We have him valued as like a mid first plus, close to where we have Chris Olave and Jalen Waddle and all those guys there. So the fact that you can get London for probably Zay Flowers and Kenneth Walker, you might even be able to get something back on top of London for that. Yeah. So definitely, you got some moves, definitely consolidate some assets. But realistically, this team, exactly the way it is, would probably be a better projection next year anyway, once you add the players from your picks, and you're going to be in a really good spot. So definitely take advantage on some guys that have a lowered market value right now. Take advantage on some potentially injured players midseason and sell off on any assets that are overvalued potentially on your own team. Like Najee Harris gets injured for a couple games, sell Jalen Warren. Rashad Penny's punching in a bunch of touchdowns, sell him off your roster, that kind of thing. So before we get into the next team, before we get into Jay's team, we do need to hear a word from our sponsors over at Manscaped, and you guys will be hearing that message right now. Attention fantasy football fanatics. As draft season approaches, do not neglect the most important draft pick of all, your game balls. We all know how injuries can ruin your season, so let Manscaped take care of that Reggie Bush of yours with advanced skin-safe technology that we all know and love. This should guarantee that you have a smooth ride into the playoffs. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have created a championship lineup with their Performance Package 4.0, and it's time for you to do the same. Join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com. Using promo code BUSH, you can get 20% off plus free shipping with our promo code BUSH. I've been a long-time user of Manscaped even before they were a sponsor to this show, and I do not trust anybody else with my below-the-waist grooming situation. Inside their Performance Package 4.0, you will find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear hair and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer brief, and a travel bag. Slotted at quarterback, the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is here to guide you on the journey to trim your body, your balls, and even your A-gap. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, and the Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch to engage a travel lock, and it is even waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has 4,000K LED spotlight, brighter than Bryce Young's future in the end zone with the Carolina Panthers. The Performance Package 4.0 also features the Weed Whacker, which is the ultimate flex. It'll run through your ears and your nose hairs like Aaron Donald runs through your favorite quarterback. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof, uses a 9,000 RPM motor, 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology as well, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs into those sensitive holes. Don't forget the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver to help your little bench warmers be on their A game while feeling the sun's heat. And Manscaped will even throw in their Performance Boxer briefs and Shed travel bag as a free gift. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code BUSH. It's time to put the PP back in PPR and get a grip on your pigskin this football season. All right, big shout out to Manscaped. Of course, 20% off plus free shipping using promo code BUSH as always. Jay's team, the next team that we're going to talk about, another Mother Flocker tier member here, a 12-team PPR league, 6 point per passing touchdown, full point per tight end premium as well. So another a 0.75 actually he has listed here. Superflex league as well. Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield as the quarterbacks. Jonathan Taylor, Tank Bigsby, Kendre Miller, Chase Brown, and others at running back. Drake London, Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, Traylon Burks, and others at wide receiver with Zay Flowers buried at the bottom there. And then not much going on at tight end. Austin Hooper, Taysom Hill, Daniel Bellinger, guys like that. But he does have all of his future picks. So he's persistent, middle of the road finisher, which is nothing. We never want to hear that. That's never where you want to be. He said he's looking to move to a rebuild. 2 other teams rebuilding, but he should be able to get to top 2 after selling some pieces. He said he tried to move some win now pieces like Ridley for a first with no luck. Mike Evans and guys like that. He said, not sure what type of deals I should be looking for. So I think the best thing that we can do here is tell him what he should get for his win now assets. So let's take his win now assets. Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, put a price tag on him.
I will quickly say one thing. There are only 2 players on this entire roster maybe 3, depending on the valuation of Tank Bigsby in your league. Maybe you want to sell in season. There's 2, maybe 3 players that I'm actually attached to. It's Bryce Young, it's Drake London, especially, and maybe Tank Bigsby because he's getting undervalued in your league because I think he's a good player and you may be able to flip for more. Aside from that,
Burks and Flowers too. They're young receivers. You could hold on to those.
I didn't see Burks, but Burks, Flowers, even like I would be comfortable liquidating him if people are really high on him. I've seen some people have him as like a top 2, top 3 overall wide receiver in this class. If you can, potentially sell high on him, I am perfectly fine with moving off of Zay Flowers. Burks, though, I do think is a little bit undervalued given the market right now. So I would say those 3, and then maybe Tank Bigsby. Everything else, though, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, maybe Baker Mayfield. He wins the job. Somebody's willing to give you, even a third for Baker Mayfield at this point. Like I'd be willing to cash out on, especially given the context of your team area. JT is a big one for me. Obviously, there's a lot of news right now. We don't know if he's going to hold out. We don't know if he's going to play the year.
Can't sell him now.
But once you get in season and he racks up a couple of weeks of point production, if you can get anywhere close, even if you added a little piece, you can get anywhere close to 2 firsts of liquidity for JT, you're taking it. You're taking it in your spot. You can't consistently you can't consistently be a middle of the road finisher because you never get the benefits of not competing for a championship. Being in the middle of the road, I don't care if I'm 4th place, 5th place. I don't care if I'm 12th place. At the end of the day, I'm not winning money, so it's a failed season. But if you're finishing as the 4th best team in your league, you're not reaping the rewards of getting the next batch of elite players in your rookie draft. You're not getting access to Bryce Young. You're not getting access to Bijan Robinson. You're not getting access to Anthony Richardson. Or if we're projecting forward, you're not getting access to freaking Caleb Williams, who may be the best overall quarterback we have ever seen come out of college. And I don't even mean that hyperbolic. I've heard that from NFL scouts. So you're in a position right now where, yeah, the team, you got some pieces. Maybe you can finish 6th, 7th, but that does you no favors. You have to strip this thing down. It's straight picks. It's straight like 2 or 3 max building blocks. And you're going to have to accept how ugly it looks, to be honest, because you're going to strip this thing completely down. You're going to look at your roster and think, where did all my players go? But then you're going to realize, hey, no, my players are going to be coming in the next upcoming rookie drafts, and they're going to be better players than I had on this middling roster right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna rattle off some assets that I'm looking for some of these guys. So Daniel Jones, his value in our trade value charts like a mid-first and a second right now in super flex heavy rooms. If you can get CJ Stroud straight up for him, sell him. If you can get Tua Tagovailoa straight up for him, sell him. If you can get anywhere close to a mid-first and a mid-second, or even a late-first and a mid-second, I would probably sell him for that. Russell Wilson, anyone, and he's off my team. 24, 25, he's off my team. I would be willing to throw in a third on top of Russell Wilson to get that done, or throw in Peoples Jones or, Mike Evans or something to get Russell Wilson off my roster. Mike Evans, any early second or better, he's off my team. Calvin Ridley, any first, he's off my team. Jonathan Taylor, like you said, 2 firsts of value is ideal for him. And then that's pretty much like the main, win now assets that you're going to have that are going to fetch value. But like Danny said, Tank Bigsby, if he works into a big workload during the season because ETN goes down, or Kendre Miller, same thing. Chase Brown, same thing. Any 2s probably are off my team. Early seconds, if possible, would be ideal for those guys. But yeah, I think you got a lot of work to do. You definitely need to tear this thing down. The only assets we're married to, Bryce Young, Drake London especially, and then Treylon Burks most likely because his market value is a little deflated right now, and maybe Zay Flowers if he doesn't have a lot of market value in your league. Some people are still very narrative-y with the Baltimore Ravens, so it's possible that he doesn't have a lot of value in your league as well. But that's pretty much it. Everybody else on my roster, I'm selling them for the prices that I kind of just outlined. I think we could probably move on to the next team here, which is from Andrew. He says he doesn't have his own 2025 first, but he's projected to have the 101, 102, and 2020 in 2024 based on Dynasty Daddy and a mid to late first. So as you guys can see, as he just mentioned, he has 3 ones this coming year, and 2 of them are projected to be 101 and 102. His team in a 12-team PPR superflex, 4-point per passing touchdown. Burrow and Deshaun Watson to load his quarterback core. Jamal Williams and pretty much nobody else at running back. Drake London, JSN, Jordan Addison, Garrett Wilson to head out his wide receiver core. He'd love to see that. And then not really much going on at tight end, but 3 ones, 2 of them projected early, has an extra 2 and a couple 3s there, and an extra 2 in 2025 as well. This is a pretty damn good shell. You got your 2 stud quarterbacks, you got 4 absolute stud wide receivers, and you got picks to boot.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love what you're able to do here. You basically put your spot in, you put yourself in a spot now where 2023 is your house money year. You have all those picks in 2024 to be able to dangle for either assets to compete, win now type of assets, or to just spend on the rookies on what should be a very, very good rookie class this upcoming year. And if you've also known you've lost your own 2025 first, you have somebody else's 2025 first for buying power in that 2024 season as well. So worst case scenario, somebody misses some time. You want to buy a player with that 2025 first. You will have somebody else's first to be able to do so. So very, very good position you've put yourself in. In terms of the trades, though, because we will look at some of these trades right now, and I think you absolutely dominated some of these deals. I love what you're able to do. Goff, Damian Pierce, 112, Jerry Jeudy. You're able to get a 2024 for 2024 first, a third, and Tim Patrick, which bow down, fucking awesome move here. Just completely liquidate this roster, get all those picks. We already mentioned this is house money, so getting 3 first-round picks for next year to be able to leverage, 2 of them being 101 and 102, like you said, Dynasty Daddy has analyzed. Phenomenal work there. AJ Brown for Addison at the 25 first. You know what? I'm just going to combine these next 2 deals because they're pretty similar in their own right. We're basically looking at you giving up AJ Brown and Travis Etienne in exchange for Jordan Addison and Garrett Wilson. Actually, in fact, I think
You upgrade
the
his
one
pick too because he sold his own
yeah,
2025 first and got somebody else's. So assuming this is a really savvy move because assuming that
yep,
you hit on your picks in 2024, you're going to be in at least a house money, if not a full-on contender mode by 2024, which means your
yep,
2025 first is probably not going to be very high. You have your somebody else's 2025 first, like Danny said, to either spend in 2025 or to buy more assets for in 2025. So let's play some matchmaker with this roster. He has Caleb Williams and Drake May on the board for him. If I were in your spot, you trade down from one of those quarterbacks potentially, or
yep.
you move off of Deshaun Watson or something like
Or
that. And you go
straight,
down, get yourself Marvin Harrison Jr., trade down even more, collect some more picks in the mid first. Also, as a potential mid first in 2024, you can add a Raheem Sanders, you can add a Travion Henderson, you can add a Trey Benson, whoever else.
yep.
Got a bunch of mid round picks. We always talk about second and third round rookie picks, take shots on rookie running backs all the time. You could pretty much fill out your running back core with next year's class alone, let alone once you see the fruits of your team kind of coming together. You also have a possibility to add Brock Bowers to this team because you don't really have a tight end as well. You could add that 2025 first that you picked up that's not your own. You could sell for Saquon Barkley. You could sell for Josh Jacobs, who we signed a new
Whatever,
deal with a new team. You could sell it for Travis Etienne. You could sell it for whoever.
whatever the flavor at running back is going into the 2024 season, you could pretty much buy with that 2025 pick. So great work. I do quickly want to say that the other savvy part, of course, you upgraded your 2025 first. And if we're just comparing assets, man, AJ Brown and Travis Etienne versus Garrett Wilson and Jordan Addison, I have Garrett Wilson now 1 spot ahead of AJ Brown in my rankings. And Jordan Addison, Travis Etienne to me is a pretty even wash. I would say 107, 108 is about their relative value based on the 2023 classes. So to get basically, even if you want to call it an even Steven type of deal with the players, the fact that you're able to basically upgrade your pick in the process, phenomenal work. And like Corey said, very, very savvy.
Yeah, they probably didn't even notice the people that you made these
Yeah.
trades with. They probably didn't even notice that you did that, which is something that I'm sure you've taken away from watching our videos and whoever else's videos. So definitely great job. You have a monster of a shell to work with
Yep.
here, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with this
It's going
team.
to be fun.
There's a couple teams that we have that look like this too, and we're salivating at the 2024
Oh, yeah.
rookie draft right now, just waiting to be able to spend those picks and be able to play some shopping spree with those teams. So great move. You're obviously very well set up. I don't even think you need our help, to be honest. So Ahmed is the next team that we're going to talk about here. He is a Flocker tier member, 12-team PPR league. Looks like a super flex as well. Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, Trey Lance as his main quarterbacks. Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, Kendre Miller, and others at running back. JSN, Traylon Burks, Jordan Addison, mainly at wide receiver with Hyatt and some other guys in reserve. And then Sam Laporta is his main tight end, and he has 4 ones next year, 2 of which are early, 1 mid and 1 late, and a couple extra 3s as well. So, I mean, another very, very strong shell that we have here. The things that stand out to me right away is I actually think, like, if things broke right for you, you probably can't compete with this team, but I will say you're probably
House
not
money.
that far off, especially once you spend those 2024 picks. So again, we're talking a house money team. Anytime you can buy on players that are injured, like we talked about for previous teams. Definitely take advantage of that. Dak Prescott is the one guy on this roster that kind of stands out to me as maybe you could get a little bit younger at that position, see what the difference between Dak Prescott and Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson or, whoever else in your league is going for right now. I actually made a shift in my dynasty rankings to put Tua Tagovailoa over Dak Prescott the other day. So if you wanted to swap him straight up for Tua, I don't think that would be a terrible move. But you also are going to be adding, presumably Caleb Williams or Drake May or both to this team. So you have the option to just kind of hold Dak Prescott if you wanted to. He's still going to be valuable for the next couple of years. It's not a big deal, but I will say he is the oldest player on your roster and the rest of the team is young. So if you wanted to get younger at that position, you probably could.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say, the thing is, you said you're tanking for 101 with Caleb Williams. I'll tell you right now, this roster is probably going to have a hard time getting you 101 because I do think that you have enough talent to maybe get that pick to the 102, 103, 104 range. So I'll say that right off the bat. However, if Dak Prescott, if you can sell him for, any of the equivalent value in first, I would also not be opposed to it because you do have Justin Fields, you do have Trey Lance there. You add one more quarterback in that 2024 class, and you're pretty much set at the position to the point where you won't really need Dak Prescott. And like we kind of said, you guys know how much I love Dak Prescott, and I think he's going to bounce back in terms of the turnovers this upcoming year. But he's still, the fourth or fifth oldest starting quarterback in the NFL right now, just turned 30 years old. So if you can transition to that, 2 firsts of equatable value, you think gets you off Dak Prescott in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, that would also obviously have the inherent benefit of making your own pick worse. So if you're valuing one of your own picks as early, I kind of agree with Danny. I think early might be optimistic. You're probably closer to like the 104, 105 area with this team. But even still, you don't really need to add those quarterbacks. But if you do sell Dak off your team, that will probably go a long way in helping you with that. He also says this is like a bunch of college friends that went to Ohio State. So I'm looking at Jackson Smith and Jigba on your roster, and he's an Ohio State Buckeye. You could potentially sell him for more than he's worth because he says Olave and Garrett Wilson are overvalued in this league. Maybe you can take Dak Prescott and JSN and combine them together, get yourself a superstar quarterback to anchor this team. Maybe that gets you up to Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence or, whoever else. I'm trying to think who's Ohio State hate. Any team that's, winning championships, they probably hate Clemson. So maybe you can get Trevor Lawrence for.
They hate Michigan. Go blue, baby.
Yeah, I don't know why they would hate Michigan. They never win anything. But
you beat them last years.
Yeah, they beaten them. Sure. But anyways, all jokes aside, I think Dak Prescott's a guy that I'd potentially be looking to sell. You have a bunch of young wide receivers. You're going to be adding players to this team. Honestly, I don't even think not getting 101 wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because you could probably add Drake May and Marvin Harrison if you have like the 1-3, 1-4 or something like that.
By the way, Marvin Harrison, if ever
he's a Buckeye, he'll probably go 101 or 102. That's a good point.
That's the thing. He'll probably go 102, but I could just imagine what the trade value of a guy like that would be in this type of league. But I agree with Corey said. See if like JSN plus Dak can get you like a superstar quarterback. Maybe on current market, like you might get Lamar and a piece back on top of that, given that it's Ohio State biased room. They're probably Cleveland Browns or Cincinnati Bengals fans. You got Lamar Jackson, who's on a rival team, and everybody's going to make the narratives. Oh, he's a running back, this and that. Like I've heard some nonsense getting spoken on Lamar Jackson. Maybe you can get Lamar Jackson plus like an Elijah Moore for JSN plus Dak.
Yeah, and you could even go a little bit lower at quarterback. You could probably get Kyler Murray and a really solid wide receiver. Like you might be able to get Kyler Murray and Drake London for Jackson Smith and Jigba and Dak Prescott.
Probably.
Maybe you have to add a second rounder or third rounder to that to get that done because Kyler's so disrespected on the market right now, as is Drake London, and JSN having the value that he probably has in this league would make some sense. So we're kind of just spitballing here. Let's get into some of the actual trades that he made. He sent away Hollywood Brown and a second. It looks like his 2024 second, received an early to mid 2024 first and a third. I don't know how the hell you convinced this guy to do this. Maybe this is Hollywood Brown himself is in this league. I'm not exactly sure, but definitely a good trade there. He said he didn't want to sell CeeDee Lamb, but he thought this price was too good to pass up, and I absolutely agree. Josh Kelly ain't worth shit, so we'll just cancel out the third rounder, even though I don't even think he's worth that. CeeDee Lamb for 2 firsts and Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely insane. Realistically, there's not a huge difference in startup value between CeeDee Lamb and Jahmyr Gibbs. It's like the late first is probably the difference in their value.
It's early to mid second round startup ADP for a guy like CeeDee Lamb, and it's literally early to mid third round startup value for Jahmyr Gibbs in a sharp league. So 2 firsts on top of that. Yes, please. I will liquidate down and I'll still get, elite buying power on top of my elite running back asset that is Jahmyr Gibbs. So excellent work there. You didn't want to sell him, but if you're going to sell him, that's the type of godfather I'm looking for. And finally, you have 2 optional trades on this on the table here. So you got Dak Prescott for CJ Stroud plus a third. I'll ask you your thoughts on that because it kind of fits the billing of getting younger. And then the other one is Gibbs for 2 firsts and Jameson Williams. So right off the bat with the Gibbs one, I kind of have trouble making this deal because, again, I'm not exactly sure what the equatable value is of Jameson Williams come season time once people realize he's on suspension. And I don't think that 2 mid to late first round picks is going to make me feel any better about moving Gibbs. So I would hold Gibbs for that cost. In terms of Dak Prescott, though, I don't think this is a terrible deal. The third is kind of like whatever, but I would kind of need like a different piece than the third to be able to make this move, in my opinion. Or I would just use Dak to get, like you said, maybe package up for a guy like Lamar Jackson instead. I would rather use Dak in different packages, in different bundles, than just downgrade and get a third round pick to go to CJ Stroud, to be honest.
I will say it is underrated, the ability that going from Dak to a rookie quarterback gives you in terms of shaving point production off of your team. So that's something that I do keep in mind with this trade. But I do think both of these deals are about 10% short. Like that, like I would want 10% better asset than Jameson Williams. I would want 10% better asset than a 2024 third. If this was CJ Stroud and Elijah Moore, I would probably do it, to be honest. If this was Jahmyr Gibbs for 2 firsts and George Pickens, I would probably do it. Like, I think it's just a little shy. And especially with Gibbs, because I actually really believe in him this year, I think it's probably smart if you hold Gibbs, wait to see how he's progressing throughout the season. You could probably get more for him midway through the year. So, I mean, you're doing a really good job. It's obvious that you kind of know what you're doing, and you have a lot of pick acquisitions and pick ammunition to be able to do what you want pretty much with this team. So, but now let's move on to the final team of the video, which is from Thomas here. He says he's new to Dynasty. He wants to be competitive ASAP. Big time mistake there. Don't think that way in Dynasty leagues. It ain't redraft. But let's look at his team here. 12 team, half PPR lineup format, 4 point per passing touchdown, and a half point tight end premium super flex. So he has a young quarterback core, CJ Stroud, Kenny Pickett, and then an older guy with Russell Wilson, Breece Hall, Dameon Pierce as his main running backs, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Zay Flowers, and others there at wide receiver. Cole Kmet is his main tight end, and then a bunch of mid-round picks next year in 2024, and a projected early first, which I'm assuming is his in 2024 as well. So, I mean, you said you want to be competitive right away. You ain't close. Let's be honest here. Let's get one thing straight. You are not close, which means I am selling those 2 running backs as soon as I possibly can, because Breece Hall and Dameon Pierce, as much as they're young and they're, guys that you could hold for a number of years, you are multiple pieces away.
Start 11 league, man. Fuck. Start 11 league. Not a good quarterback core. Not a lot of depth. Man, you're being very optimistic that you're going to be able to compete in 2024. I'll just tell you that right now. Realistically, 2025, probably 2025, 2026. You have to strip this thing completely down. And I know you're new to Dynasty, so I'm not going to like completely rip you up because, again, like that's going to come with learning experience. You're going to make moves. You're going to learn. It's the process. That's why you're coming to watch us at this channel, because we're trying to help in terms of learning the Dynasty experience. But, man, you asked how valuable are picks. They're your only value from now on. Like, realistically, if you're not benefiting picks from certain or from certain deals, you're not doing the deals. Like, everything off this roster, everything needs to be picks. Realistically, the only players that I'm comfortable holding through it would be CJ Stroud and Drake London for the most part. Like, even Kenny Pickett, he's a young quarterback, so maybe you can say him. But if he starts showing flashes and somebody's willing to buy in at that point, I don't believe in the talent quite enough to just hold him. So if you can get, first round type of equity for Kenny Pickett, maybe a 1 and a 2 if he starts performing well in season, off my team. Same thing with Russell Wilson, off my team for any first. Breece Hall, if you can get 2 1s plus 4 Breece Hall. You have a couple offers here for him right now with a 2025 early to mid, second, fourth, and Chigakonkwo. Listen, if he wants Breece Hall, you're knocking Chigakonkwo off the deal. You're knocking the 4th and you're knocking the 4th, and you're adding a first round pick. It has to be 2 first round picks and a second for me to even think about leaving Breece Hall. But given the offers at hand, I feel like that could be attainable with a little bit of wiggle room if you work at it. So Breece Hall, that's what I'd be looking for. Dameon Pierce, you kind of said if you can get a first round pick for him, off my team. Treylon Burks is somebody I'm probably going to hold because his market's a bit depressed right now. But if he starts showing signs in season and somebody's willing to pay up, wide receiver 15 in Dynasty price tags, off my team. Like, realistically, you're using a roster right now of basically like stocks, where if one stock starts showing completely high, you're getting rid of it. you're liquidating. You're getting your money right off the bat. Like, you're not waiting. You're not taking the risk. You can't absorb volatility. You're taking the value right off the bat. And at the same time, if a stock is depressed, you hold them until his value sky high again, because you have the wiggle room to be able to hold quote unquote non-producing assets. Because guess what? This team, you need the 101 next year to be able to really suffice from a value standpoint with your league mates.
Yeah, absolutely. And during the rookie draft next year, you have a bunch of mid-round picks or whatever, trade down, collect more picks in the future, and be able to add come 2025. Because your goal is Caleb Williams here. You want him on this team. I would highly recommend trying to get Kenny Pickett and Russell Wilson off this team before you even set foot into the season, because those guys are going to give you point production because they're quarterbacks, and they're going to, you don't want holding Russell Wilson for 10% more value than you want for Russell Wilson keep you from getting Caleb Williams. Like, if all you can get for Russell Wilson is an early second and an upside swing at wide receiver, then you sell him for an early second and an upside swing at wide receiver. But ideally, you get like a late first, even if it's in 2025 or 2026 for Russell Wilson. So definitely be very regal with this team. Like, nobody is safe. CJ Stroud, if he looks good, sell him. Drake London, if he's performing the way that his target share would indicate, you can sell him too if you can get 2 first rounders. But Stroud and London are probably more likely long-term assets, which is why we said we should probably hold those guys. Same with Burks and with Flowers. And the Breece Hall deals that you have on the table right now are just frankly not enough for him. You need less assets, but better assets. You need, Christian Watson and a first and a second. That's reasonable for Breece Hall. But Christian Watson, Trey McBride, and Desmond Ridder, like, I don't give a shit about those guys enough.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Chigakonko deal is something that you could probably work up, because he's already adding the 1 and the 2. If you can, again, shave Chigakonko the 4th and the 4th and get him to add another first, whether that's even in 2024, 2025, or 2026, I'd be willing to do it. Because again, if you can get an early second, a projected early to mid first, and maybe one more first on top of that, I feel like that's about equivalent value to Breece Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of work ahead for you. You definitely have a lot to do with this team. It's going to be a long process. So stick around here. You said you're new to Dynasty. We will help you tear this thing down and help you turn it into a monster in a year, 2 years, 3 years time. So if you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe. Comment any of your thoughts down below. If this is the first time you're checking us out, let us know what you thought of the video and of the channel. Check out our other videos from recent days. If you want first priority to Dynasty decisions, you want us to cover your team on these videos, link in the Google form down below in the description. Our Mother Flocker and Flocker tier members on Flock Fantasy skip the line. Using our promo code only. If you use promo code Flock or Land or whatever, you do not skip the line. You need to use our promo code. So make sure if you guys sign up over there, you get 30% off with promo code FSE, first priority to Dynasty decisions. You get a free Zoom consult if you sign up annually as well. So definitely check out all of that stuff if you're interested. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.